Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Beyond EDP final conference. The entrepreneurial discovery process, or what we call EDP, is the cornerstone of smart specialization strategies, which are now moving into their second funding period. And they will be key to supporting regional strategies addressing wider EU policies, particularly now the Green Deal and digitalization. Regions are now developing their new S3 or possibly S4. And as the EDP is a core component of the new smart specialization, a successful EDP will be a key role in the success of the future smart specialization strategy. So this conference, it actually is very timely. It will provide practical advice on how to improve EDPs, especially in terms of the continuity of the EDP, governance, stakeholder involvement, and territorial cooperation. The conference will start with a plenary session where we welcome François Bonneau, President of the Region Centre Val de Loire, via video, Michael Landebasso, Director of the JRC Seville and absolutely one of the fathers of S3 at EU level, and Erwin Siwaris, Director of the Interreg Europe program, which of course financed the project. We will then have 2 short sessions on the outcomes of the project, before moving to 3 parallel workshop sessions. Each participant, all of you have been assigned to one of the sessions, so you will be automatically assigned to either continuous EDP, the role of universities, or the role of intermediate organizations. Once these sessions are finished, you will automatically come back to the plenary without any intervention, so don't worry about that. We'll take questions from the floor via the chat section. In case there are too many, we can't possibly answer all the questions, but URADA will save all the questions. If necessary, approach the speakers later on for written answers, and these will be circulated. So please feel free to use the chat function for any questions, but also any comments you wish to make. A warning, not a warning, but the conference is being recorded. Slides and recording will be available after on the Beyond EDP or the URADA website. And URADA will actively circulate the link to all of you today. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming. We've got a very big audience, so we're very pleased about that. But now we'd like to go over to our introduction from François Bonneau.
Mais tout d'abord, heureux de vous saluer, vous qui, venant de régions et de pays différents, vous vous retrouvez, vos fonctions sont des fonctions de développeurs de l'activité économique sur nos territoires, vos fonctions sont des fonctions d'animateurs de la recherche au service du développement économique de nos territoires. Très heureux de vous retrouver, très heureux aussi de partager ce moment où des régions ensemble, des régions d'Europe ensemble, viennent créer ce lien fécond, fertile entre la mission de l'Europe, faire que ce territoire de l'intelligence qu'est l'Europe, ce territoire du savoir et de la connaissance qu'est l'Europe, ce territoire de la recherche, ce territoire du progrès économique et social, faire en sorte que ce territoire-là le reste, non pas par une vision verticale, mais par la mise en commun de l'ensemble des énergies, de l'ensemble des potentiels de recherche, de développement, de création. Le moment est tout à fait particulier. Certes, des échanges comme ceux que vous partagez existent depuis bien des années et il faut les poursuivre. Mais le moment est particulier, pourquoi? D'abord parce que nous vivons une crise sanitaire, une crise économique, une crise sociale, une crise écologique sans précédent. Et que la crise sanitaire vient, d'une certaine manière, accélérer la prise de conscience d'un certain nombre de déséquilibres. Déséquilibres économiques et sociaux, déséquilibres dans notre rapport à l'environnement. Cette crise nous montre par exemple que s'agissant de notre rapport à l'environnement, nous avons construit notre développement dans et avec la production notamment de gaz carbonique dans des quantités totalement insupportables qui entraînent le réchauffement climatique et il nous faut aller très vite vers une économie décarbonée horizon 2050. C'est pas en regardant derrière que nous allons trouver des solutions, c'est en regardant devant, c'est par la recherche, c'est par l'innovation, innovation produit. innovation service, innovation portée par le numérique, innovation portée par l'intelligence artificielle et la data. J'ai une autre préoccupation qui est inventer en accéléré d'une certaine manière le monde de demain. Les activités de production, les activités de service, les activités d'intervention sur notre environnement doivent changer dans un paradigme temps qui est accéléré. Non, ça n'est pas en regardant avant-hier, c'est en regardant demain. C'est en mobilisant une recherche responsable, c'est en associant chercheurs et entreprises, c'est en faisant en sorte que, à l'échelle de territoire, la recherche et l'innovation ne soient pas simplement quelque chose qui se fait dans des grandes métropoles mondes au service d'entreprises installées dans ces métropoles mondes. Ça n'est pas ça le sujet. L'activité industrielle, c'est exactement comme le vélo, ça ne tient pas debout à l'arrêt. Il faut nourrir en permanence l'innovation. Et moi, je crois très fort à des territoires d'innovation qui sont en même temps des territoires de production, des territoires de services. À l'échelle de Centre-Val de Loire, la région que je représente en tant que président, nous avons choisi une stratégie d'innovation intelligente qui s'enracine véritablement dans la durée. Cette stratégie, elle prend appui finalement sur la pertinence, la force, la spécificité des chercheurs et des développeurs de notre région pour la porter à un niveau supérieur. Et nous le faisons dans le cadre européen parce que nous pensons que des enrichissements, notamment à travers les dispositifs Interreg, des enrichissements sont possibles. Tout d'abord parce que quand on regarde l'Europe, quand on regarde la France, les éléments, les unités de production sont loin d'être toutes concentrées dans les métropoles. Au contraire, elles ont souvent à voir avec des territoires ruraux. Et si des entreprises, parce qu'elles sont dans des territoires ruraux, étaient insuffisamment connectées à cette dynamique de la recherche, à ce que peut apporter un laboratoire comme élément pertinent pour une nouvelle production, etc., très rapidement, ces entreprises connaîtraient des difficultés. Donc, il nous faut penser des systèmes de recherche qui soient des systèmes englobants, qui associent de la même manière à l'œuvre de recherche, à l'œuvre de développement, l'entreprise qui se trouve très directement implantée sur une métropole, où on a des universités, où on a des laboratoires, et l'entreprise qui se situe davantage dans l'espace rural. Ce sont des systèmes d'innovation qu'il faut mettre en place au service de territoires économiques, de territoires d'industrie, de territoires de services, en faisant en sorte qu'il n'y ait pas des entreprises de premier rang, des entreprises de second rang, des entreprises qui seraient de second rang parce qu'elles sont dans la ruralité. Non, nous avons besoin d'une ruralité savante, nous avons besoin d'une ruralité complètement associée à l'effort de recherche. Et c'est aussi une piste sur laquelle nous devons travailler parce que ça renvoie à des organisations de territoire, ça renvoie à des conventionnements entre expériences de recherche et d'innovation dans les centres et problématiques de développement dans des entreprises éloignées. Ça envoie à des connexions au moment même où les étudiants font leurs études, à des connexions, s'ouvrir aussi à ces réalités extrêmement diverses qui sont souvent des réalités, on l'ignore, mais très intéressantes sur le plan de l'innovation. Et puis, dire aussi, dans ce moment où notre société s'interroge sur ses valeurs, sur la manière dont elle va assurer le progrès demain pour les générations qui montent, que ce sur quoi vous travaillez, ce sur quoi nous travaillons dans les régions, nous puissions le faire partager de manière très citoyenne. Si nos concitoyens appréhendent le monde d'aujourd'hui simplement comme un monde de peur, comme un monde de menaces, on ne relèvera pas les défis qui sont les défis sociaux, on ne relèvera pas les défis environnementaux, on ne relèvera pas les défis de la justice dans l'accès partagé aux nouveaux outils numériques, etc., etc. Il faut de la confiance. Il faut que nous associons la recherche, la production, les services dans un même mouvement de développement. Et pour ça, il faut le débat citoyen, il faut l'ouverture, il faut la transparence. Donc ce que vous faites aujourd'hui a aussi un sens par rapport aux valeurs que nous partageons pour la société que nous avons à construire.
Thank you very much. Very key. I thought it was very interesting. You talked about the innovation territories and systems, S3 for all territories, and bringing in this idea of smart rurality and also the civic involvement as well on that level. But to continue our debate around smart specialization, I'd now like to welcome our next two speakers. Our first speaker is Miquel Londebasso. He's director of the JRC from Seville, and obviously one of the great experts on smart specialization. And following that will be Erwin Siris from Interreg Europe. So Miquel, can we go over to you for 10 minutes, please?
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And thank you really, because this is a real pleasure to be in the hands of DG Regio Interreg friends, Erwin, and also Urada, which is close to my heart, and I've seen in the screens, Richard, yourself, Christian, Dieter, Andrea, and Esteban also, thank you. I mean, these are I mean, if you are still working at this, on this, there must be something to it really important. And you have so much knowledge only with these names and others, I'm sure, but so congratulations, and the people attending, I mean, squeeze them because they've been more than 20 years in this business. And the second thing I wanted to tell you is congratulations, because you said, Richard, this is timely. And I want to, maybe in these 10 minutes, convey a sense of urgency, okay? I'm going to tell you why, from my perspective. And it has to do with the crisis. I want to make clear, maybe within the framework of the crisis, why we have a unique opportunity today. A unique opportunity means that we will be facing soon the biggest budget ever of the European Commission, which is intended to promote and accelerate transformation and change. And what we need to do is to put the RIS4, the innovation strategies for smart specialization, as the main vehicle for this transformation, not just for Interreg, not just for the cohesion policy, but for reform and recovery. So let's catch the train. And congratulations, because if there is a significant feature, if there is a characteristic, if there is this magnet to RIS3 and now 4, is because we call it, we have something called the entrepreneurial discovery process, which is the DNA, is the single most important factor characterizing, defining this methodology. And you have to get it right, and it's extremely difficult. But let me go back to the crisis and framing it and the why. This is a crisis of demand, this is the crisis of supply, and this crisis has an asymmetric impact. Demand, you look at the savings of citizens today and the way of behaving in terms of market demand, online transactions, winners and losers, a crisis of supply. You look at the disruptions of the supply chains, globalization being questioned. And this means, together with the asymmetric impact that I want to emphasize, winners and losers, territories with future and with less of a future. Look at McKinsey has produced over the summer a report, The Future of Work. You look at it and it's, wow, there will be territories with no future. There is this continuous trend attracting talent to the mega cities. What are we going to do in our regions and medium-sized cities? Can we use innovation to revitalize them? This is an asymmetric crisis that, unless we do it right, have implications in terms of inequality. Reaction to this inequality. And we have to take care of that. And what does it mean in economic terms? That there is a change of paradigm.
Miquel,
has territorial consequences. So what do? There is a change of paradigm. We're talking about resilience. What is resilience? is the bamboo thing. The capacity to thrive in the face of adversity is the capacity of like the bamboo. You bounce back in the right direction. What is the right direction? The green and the digital. Is this new? No. We had conditions in the cohesion policy for years. You have to concentrate your investments on innovation to drive this digital transformation, to make true the now called Green European deal. This is not new. What the crisis is doing is accelerating trends. We have compressed the transformation period, and we have to do it right, because this is a unique opportunity, because there is 1.8 trillion euros in the next European budget. And this is next generation EU with 750 plus cohesion policy. And the RIS4, we need to place it at the heart of this recovery effort. Because now people, your governments, our governments are trying to improvise projects. The word is, give me a bag of projects. Give me projects now, because by early spring, I need to put to Brussels a plan for recovery. And what is there in the territory, which is not a collection of projects, but a strategy, because individual projects don't make a strategy. What exists out there in the territories, in every single region, which is a public-private partnership that has been thinking about the strategies. And that means, where do we go from here with what we've got in order to accelerate the transition through investments in research and innovation towards the digital and the green? Who is there? There's only one thing out there, which is the real innovation strategies. They've been working hard. You have been working hard to have a strategy, not a collection of projects, to have a vision, to have a factory of projects, but that fit a strategy, not improvised, using innovation as a means to make them true. You are the only ones. Believe me. Yes, there are many, many people wanting a piece of the pie, improvising, sectorial associations, consultancies. Wow, what a market for consultancies. And they all publish very nice paper with colors, with graphics. But what is the reality behind it? The only reality I see, messy as it is, conflictual, difficult, is the RIS3, RIS4 conversations in the cities, in the regions, trying to make true their real potential in order to have a specialized diversification and modernization of the economy that gives future to the talent they have. So, a unique opportunity. A few words on RIS4, and I promise to shut up very quickly. We have a new S, because we've been here for quite some time. Richard, Christian and company. Okay, we'll be coming up with, in the research center here, which you have a concentration of distillation of methodologies and knowledge and evaluations of risk, and it is open for you, open hands, and here is a call for collaboration, truly. We'll be publishing a report soon on RIS4, no? What it is and why the fourth S, which is adding sustainability to these innovation strategies that search this modernization, diversification through specialization, okay? And sustainability, because sustainability encapsulates the triple bottom line: social, economic, environmental. And this is the European social market. This is European social mode, the way forward, the vision we have. But also, let me say that there will be this paper, there will be a paper, there will be a methodology. And you know, Christian, Jurada, practical, forget about this economic thinking. I mean, how many papers we've seen on ecosystems, innovation hub, innovative milieux. It's been 30 years listening to this, and very interesting. But then you need to talk with the political authorities, to the people that have the pressure to invest, and give them a methodology they can use. This is what Christian is trying to do with us. And of course, EURADA, since the beginning. Now, few thinking about the entrepreneurial discovery process. This is very difficult. Okay, I look at your statistics, your results, you know, vocational training is not participating. Why? And in most of our regions, innovation will happen in SMEs through vocational training, not high-level research coming from universities or science centers. Unless you capture vocational training institutions into the conversation, the entrepreneurial discovery process will be questioned. Second thing, universities are eager to be there, but you know the problems we have with universities. You know how difficult it is to make universities work in terms of economic development. They have no problem in using our European regional development funds for their research. But they have a very big difficulty when we say, what did you do with these funds in terms of regional development? Because this is not about science in abstract. This is about practical, applied technology transfer research efforts. So the role of universities, the inclusion of vocational training institutions in the conversation, and the biggest problems of it all, not the usual suspects in the conversation. Because if we pretend that the RIS3 this case is not a paper exercise where you have, yes, we have a nice report, we send it to our friends in DG Regio, and since it is an enabling condition, they will give us the money, forget about it, we'll see each other in 7 years. No, we don't want to spread too thinly everywhere. How do you focus? How do you prioritize? How do you concentrate? That's the key to the RIS3. How do you do it in a sensible way? And in order to do that, how do you involve not the usual suspects, but how do you aggregate the demand in order to understand the capacities and the co-financing that may come from the SMEs in your territory? There might be an SME that doesn't fit your regional innovation strategy broadly defined. And still you will have to cater for that, because otherwise you will be missing out on an opportunity. And what I'm saying seems to be contradictory to this necessity of identifying a few sectors, subsectors where to concentrate. Well, economic development is an art. There is not black and white. There is this gray area. It is an art. And you need to be on a listening mode in order to incorporate those that have a voice and something interesting to say and contribute.
Michael, sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, I'm going to shut up.
No,
I get carried away.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but
yeah, I'm going to shut up.
Yeah.
Anyway, to cut a longer story short, you need to aggregate this SME potential support, and this is very difficult. Congratulations for this initiative, and I wish you the best. Please catch the train.
Yeah, don't go away. Thank you very much indeed. We'll perhaps might have a bit of time for some questions, but before that, I'd like to go over to Erwin for just a quick 10 minutes presentation as well, and then questions again to Michael and Erwin.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Thank you, everybody. I hope you see my presentation.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Yeah, first of all, hello to everybody. Happy to see. I saw latest almost 160 participants here. Also happy to see a family. Michael mentioned already, Christian, Andrea, Richard, the project partners here. Also in the pre-speech, we mentioned we are a family, but as Michael mentioned also, we have to go beyond the usual subsects. And Interreg Europe is one tool to go beyond. As you know, we allowing the regions to connect. And as this is a final conference of one of our many projects, it's a pleasure for me to be present, to present quickly the program, the achievements, and give you also a quick outline about our future. Then I will leave after this presentation. Of course, I will be available for questions, but my colleagues are from the Secretariat will follow the whole conference, are also available for further questions if you have any. So just starting with a quick wrap up about the program, our achievements. We have in 4 calls committed 322 million euros. And we have funded almost 260 projects all over Europe. All countries of the geographical areas are involved. You see 30 countries, whole EU plus Norway, Switzerland, and the UK. More than 2,000 partners, more than 2,000 regions participating in this program. And I can say almost 90% of all regions in Europe participate in one of the 260 projects of these programs. A few more achievements here, a couple of numbers. We have so far, the program is in full turn of implementation. Half of the projects are more or less at their final stage. The other are still in full implementation. We have already more than 3,000 good practices identified. Staff increased capacity because of the capacity building program. It is one of the main aim, of course. You see the figures here, 12,000 staff members with increased capacities, with knowledge in how to improve local regional policies. Action plans, 900, almost 1,000 action plans already approved. And for the newcomers here, an action plan is the roadmap, how to implement what you have achieved, what you have learned in the project, in the Interreg Europe project. And action plan is the roadmap and how to implement these lessons learned into the local regional policies. So this is an important add-on what we managed in this program Interreg Europe, that we have a project phase, an exchange of experience, but then we have the implementation phase. We have to show to the taxpayers' money what is the project for, what is the added value of this project. You have to change in your region the policy, you have to improve the policy. That's what you're doing. Just another figure for the financial, because Interreg Europe capacity building is always a little bit questions. What are we doing? We're not building bridges, we're not building roads, but we're building capacity. What does it mean? With the action plans, what I just described, we have a good monitoring tool to see what we achieve with the action plans. And here's a figure we present and we are proud to present. We have half of the projects are in the final stage. They have the action plans approved. And as I said, this is the document we show. They have to show us what they're doing, and then we follow the implementation. We have in this 130 projects, 170 million euro invested of Interreg Europe funds. But as we asked them, what investments are you doing? And we're monitoring this. And this question is asked and answered and checked by us. You see that we trigger investments of more than 700 million euros in these regions. So we have a leverage effect of more than 4. 1 euro invested in Interreg Europe, 1 euro invested in capacity building, triggers more than 4 euros on investment. I think this is an important financial figures and shows the added value of this small program, which I always underline, it doesn't need much money, but the effects, the impacts we have must not be underestimated. I just want to quickly mention also the policy learning platform. This is the second pillar we have. You know, the one is the traditional projects, as you are. But we have, and here I may also thank Mikel Landabasso, because the idea of capacity building, thematic program capacity building, and the successor, the policy learning platform, was built in a discussion we had with Michael when he was still in Brussels, leading the DG unit for Smart Specialization. And then we created the thematic program capitalization as a predecessor of the policy learning platform, where we gathered all the good practices we have in the projects and made them available for all regions in Europe to learn to take these good practices. And then another founding father is Christian Sablons, who made the first pilot study on the thematic program capitalization. And you see family, we are all back. And also one of the first experts working for us in the thematic program capitalization and also on the policy learning platform is Andrea. And they are all here, and we see the capacity is here, and we're going on with this. Just to say on the policy learning platform, besides the capitalization of what we have achieved in the program, we offering also new services. We have a dedicated team of experts in the thematic area the program is working in, but the experts also know the regional policy. So they are not scientific, they are working with the region. They know what the regions need. And we're offering here an expert help desk, but the new service we offer and is very successful is the peer reviews. Regions who have a problem can call the experts, can call the policy learning platform saying, look, I have a problem, and I'm sure there are already solutions around Europe. The experts we have look into Interreg Europe project, they will find solutions which are there, experts from the regions who are willing to have a 2 days dedicated session with the region, with the hosting region, and to exchange, see what's the problem, see what the region in the other regions have done, what could be a possible action plan. This is a very condensed event, and we have quite a good number of application, and it could be more. That's the reason why I a little bit do promotion for this service, because I think it's still a good quick tool for regions in Europe to learn, to share capacity even after the calls are closed, and maybe also a very innovative tool you should have a look in. So let's continue, because Richard is probably looking at the clock already. For the COVID challenges, we have, of course, also in our projects, a lot of good practices which you should use. You should have a look on our website. You see good practices. We offer online thematic activities. The policy learning platform experts are available, help desk, but also to organize a peer review if you are interested, and also news, events, briefs we organize. For the project beyond EDP, we have in the thematic topic more than 50 projects who are working on improving innovation delivery policies. 8 projects are dedicated to the governance of innovation delivery policies, like this project beyond EDPT. Also, a few things I would like to mention. The project beyond EDP was very active in the program, helping other regions, not only their partnership in sharing, building the capacity. We have identified 15 good practices alone in this project. 10 are published in the good practice database, meaning they are validated by our experts from the policy learning platform to be worth to be shared and interesting for all Europes. They have 10 action plans, meaning 10 regions are actively now improving their risk policies. They were also one of the first who had this action plan. So we discovered the action plan, this U tool, also with this project, and they were very helpful with the program to build this action plan and how to monitor.
Sorry, Erwin, if you could speed up a bit.
Yeah, I will do.
Yeah.
I also thank the project for being active in the policy learning platform, active in peer reviews, and we often mentioned the project in some tools. We have important policy changes in these 3 regions figured out. So thank you for this. And these 3 regions here, as mentioned, they have an important improvement of their RIS strategy. A few seconds only for the future of the program. The program will continue. The programming process is starting. We're waiting, as everyone, waiting for the finalization of the MFF. The program will be an evolution, not a revolution. We will remain pan-European, the same geographical area without UK to be seen if they can, in one or the other way, continue. We will still focus on regional development policymakers as the core target group. We will have the same tools, projects, but also the policy learning platform would like to continue. And we hope everyone is interested when we start the next call. We hope beginning 22 that we have the first call open for you. But in the meantime, use the service of the policy learning platform. Voila. Richard, sorry for the delay, but I'm available for questions.
Not at all. Thank you very much, Erwin. Thank you. It was very, very interesting. There is a question on the chat, which I think is linked to you. If you could just go back on that sometime later about access to the policy learning platform on that. But I've just got I hope that Michael is still there, because we've got one question I think that came up from Florence Hénard from Wallon region here. And one of the questions she raises, will the JRC push this geographical units in DG Regio to be a much more looking at transformation and strategic impact rather than purely budget and admin? Michael, it's one, how can we move the S4 into a more transformational agenda? Quick answer.
The quick answer is we all have to try from our different corners. But if there was a short answer to this, is you need to convince your political leaders of the RIS4 value as a vehicle for recovery. They need to understand what you do, and they need to jump on this train and say, this is the vehicle I need. And then Regio, I suppose, will adapt as they will do others with the recovery funds.
One last question for you, Michael, is you mentioned very interesting your report on S4 coming out. When will it be published?
Well, I don't know, because I have it on my table, but you won't find very revolutionary issues there. Some, adaptation of the current methodology to capture better this sustainability concept and this kind of twin transition towards the digital and the Green Deal. That's what it is all about.
Right. Okay. But do you know the date when it's coming?
Probably either at the end of this month, early January.
Yeah, good, because it could influence the new industrial strategy, hopefully. Hopefully. Okay, thank you very much, Michael. Just the last question for Erwin before we move on. Apologies, we're a bit rushing, we're a bit behind time. Erwin, congratulations that the Interreg Europe is continuing. I think you've got about 490 million, I think, supposedly. So will you be using this? You've shown today you've done a lot of work on S3 with lots of projects. Will you continue on S4? Will there be a continual sort of pushing on that in the next program?
Yes, absolutely. We have in the new program, we do not have very specific thematic priorities as in the current program. We will go to the more general Interreg specific objective, exchange of experience, capacity building. But still the member states said, look, we still want to have, even that we are open in principle for everything but the region's interest improving policies, we want to have a certain chunk of money in innovation put, and here the RIS3, RIS4 is of course then one of the priorities of the future program.
Okay. Oh, and thank you very much indeed, and apologies for rushing, but we were a little bit behind time, and congratulations and good luck with the new program. So thanks very much.
Thank you all. Good luck with the conference.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Now we're moving on to our next session. Now we're going on after the sort of introduction to smart specialization and Interreg. We're now going to go on to looking at the lessons learned from the project. And it's a great pleasure to welcome two very expert speakers. First one is Matthias Flodström, and he's from the Östergötland region in Sweden. And then we followed that by Luc Hulsman from North Netherlands provinces. So Matthias, over to you.
Thank you and good day, everybody. Nice to see so many participants. My name is Matthias Flodström, and great pronunciation there, Richard. I'm from Östergötland in Sweden. We've been enjoying this fantastic project Beyond EDP now for a long time, it seems. I'm going to talk a little about, very short, briefly, about how we structured our from governance towards more to an EDP concept in our region. So please, the next slide, please. Yeah. So I'm not going to go into the analysis of our RIS3 because that's a long time ago. In 2014, our politicians approved to this strategy and these priorities in our region: efficient logistic, smart, secure, robust, connected product and systems, simulation and visualization, advanced materials and business models, an arena for sustainable system solutions. It all sounds a little bit long headlines, but they are knowledge-based, competence-based areas, and not toward branches. And we thought that was a good approach. It seemed to be a success now because everybody within, of course, innovation system knows what it's all about. But we had this strategy from 2014, and we started to work with it. And we thought after maybe a year, we didn't get the connection towards the innovation capacity, towards companies, towards the environments who works with these areas. So we had a problem getting it out to the, how to say, to real people who supposed to work with it. So we sat for a long time. I think we had 3-4 workshops, brainstorming how we should manage this in a sort of a model or a system. So, and we did this on a regional level. So we came up with the idea how to do this. So please take the next slide, and I will explain about, yeah. So we thought that we needed to have a strong governance around. Mikael, did you have a question? No. So we really need to have a strong governance around these areas. So we come up with this that we should have each area should have a coordinator on the regional level. For example, I'm a coordinator of efficient logistics, and my colleagues is in the other areas. And when we said that, we needed to, how do we come down to the companies and to the academia? So we started to do some research around in the region about, for example, operative coordinators. We looked into that, and in my way, I found an organization. It was called the Logistic Cluster in Östergötland. It was just started, and we also needed in each area 2-3 specialists within the areas who, so to say, have the knowledge, great knowledge, both from company-wise, both from public sector, a lot about logistic in question. And then we needed a good contact into the academia, to the universities. And then also we needed an innovation capacity. And we have that in our region. We have it called University Innovation. It's a subsidiary company towards the university. So we needed them also in each and every area to have, so to say, a good team for each area. And when we started to fill up these squares within the matrix, we call it the matrix, we started to set an agenda for each and every area where to be in 5 years. So that was our responsibilities as a coordinator from the more strategic level on the regional wise. And we did it also in workshops towards in each and every area. And when we've done that, we started to have workshops together with every areas to see if there is possible collaboration between different areas to can strengthen each other. So that was when we did this. It took about 1.5 to 2 years almost. So in 2017, or we really start to work in each and every of these areas. So we started also to go for bigger initiatives in these areas. And now we have, I think we have 5 or 6 great initiatives in each and every areas, who can develop the area, who can develop more than just an area, or I call it area, or smart specializations areas. So I think today we're we're a small region to say. So I think we have around 50 million euro to develop with companies in the areas of our smart specialization. And for us, that is a lot of money for us. But the most important thing, I think, we are gathering the innovation system within. We trust each other. We can discuss problems, challenges in the future. We see where the wind is blowing. We have each and every area is more like they have observation towards the future. We're now looking into the areas AI, for instance, cybersecurity. Where do these kind of new areas fit in our matrix? So we have also that coming up, but then yet again we think a very good system for this to take care of these kind of new initiatives. And now with the COVID, we have had this year, I think we have had 3 or 4 big meetings with all of these areas to see what we can do to provide the recovery from COVID. And this has been a great help. And we think it's a very good policy mix for us in Östergötland. And like I said, we had, to be honest, good success, great success in some areas. So yeah, it works for us. Next picture, and I will end soon. Yeah, just some reflections. We also have a whole ecosystem. It's called ESBR. It's a Sweden business region, where every public authority is within, who has some kind of support for companies. We have that network we own also from the region. It's a great network to both information and information inwards and towards us. And then we have the matrix, that's the innovation empowerment group. It's totally towards innovation. And we have constantly learning the ecosystem for new people, new employed ESB-Training. And yeah, some promotion we also have for our areas. It's Innovation Week, theme days, cross-cutting meetings, society quest, and so on. Success, I've mentioned it. We think the matrix is a success. ESBR definitely. And like I said, together with actors, great. We have a transparency and trustfulness. We haven't had that 10 years ago. We were so far away from this. So that's high valued from us. Sometimes we can feel, if you call failures, lack of engagement from different parts, and that's our fault. It could be that we are mostly toward rural areas. Some smaller municipality feels that they're not included in this matrix, and we're working on it, absolutely. And also from us in Sweden, we don't have any S3 strategy on the national level, and therefore it can be sometimes hard to explain towards our authorities who has their own budgets that is supporting the innovation, that we have some lack of communication there, we can see. I will end there, and thank you for the time.
Matthias, thank you very much. Thanks very much for keeping to time. I just got one question that came in, which I think is a good question. It says, are you paying the 25 people dedicated? So what are the incentives for getting involved in the matrix?
Very good question. We give the operational coordinators who is right under us, we give them assignments, and with the assignment, it is a budget.
Okay, there is there is some money involved in
absolutely.
this. Yeah,
Absolutely.
good. So thanks very much on that. I'm sorry, there are other questions, and perhaps if there is anything from Matthias, you could look in the chats and respond automatically directly. But now we'd like to go over to Luke Hulsman. Luke, are you there from North Netherlands provinces?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much.
Hi, Luke.
Richard. Good morning to everyone. I will share my screen with you. All right, should work. All right. To start with, the Beyond EDP project we were talking about today, the project started in 2016, and at that time, in my region, we were a bit more than a year and a half into the implementation of our RIS3, and at that time we started to realize that we had some issues in our region. Smart specialization was pretty well received in the Northern Netherlands at the start, and particularly by universities, knowledge institutes. We had an extensive EDP process in the design phase, and this EDP process was really translated into action, into initiative. Various initiatives were taken, mostly bottom-up, collaborative initiatives, people working on priority areas, specific themes, and kind of searching for new opportunities. And these projects, they were, in many cases, they were highly valuable in itself, but it appeared there was a kind of lack of interconnectedness, a lack of alignment, a lack of coordination. And we noticed as well during the years that several projects, they weren't designed in a kind of optimal way to reach their full potential. In a sense, for instance, there could be kind of overlap with other initiatives, or it might be the case that one university might be involved, but another working on similar issues wasn't. Kind of inefficiencies like that. So that was kind of the context at that time. And in June 2017, Joep Hoveling, my colleague, and I, we went to Östergötland, Sweden for a Beyond EDP study visit. And when Matthias there, I remember it very well, showed us their model, the way they have organized the RIS3 Governance, as Matthias just explained, we immediately realized that we might have found something for our region as well. So we went home with a lead, with an idea that appealed to us, but to be honest, at the time, we really didn't know how to treat it, how to proceed. What we did realize pretty soon is that what might be a good practice in Sweden didn't necessarily have to be a good practice in the Netherlands. So trying to make a one-on-one copy would probably not be the wisest thing to do. And it took us kind of a few months, I guess, to assess what might work for us and what might not. And it was pretty clear that the most attractive feature of the Swedish model was the matrix style layout, the configuration. So it is horizontal and vertical links, the links between priority areas and between the priority areas, and kind of these enabling horizontal themes they had identified in Östergötland. So what we did is we took this basic idea, these fundamentals, and we started to work from there, adapting their model to our region, to our situation. And one of the first decisions we made is that we took a different approach, a different perspective from Sweden, from Östergötland, in the sense that we concluded that the model for us would probably have the highest added value, not at the strategic level, but more at an operational level. We envisaged this matrix as a place where actors in the field, really working on initiatives and projects around priority themes and areas, would regularly meet, really to exchange and discuss project ideas, talk about initiatives, raise questions, and to share knowledge, expertise, context. And our conviction was, if we were able to create such a place, and a place where people would really trust each other well enough to exchange these ideas at an early stage. So it's a place where those ideas could be kind of fueled with missing knowledge, missing partners, funding, we were convinced that the overall quality of those projects would improve, but also that probably linkages would be created, and the coherence of the whole system would benefit from this interaction. And the next question for us was then, okay, how to start, how to make this a reality. And we decided to do honestly what often works best in our region, and I think in the Netherlands as a whole, in the sense that we're Dutch, we are, I think, pretty pragmatic people. So we decided not to kind of waste too much time in designing and in writing papers, writing proposals, getting approval from politicians and things like that. We decided really just to act. And basically what we did is we organized a meeting of the sort, we call in Netherlands, we call it a high-sessie. And a high-sessie is a kind of out of office gathering, a session, really often in a nice place where people meet in a truly informal setting. So a place where topics are being discussed, mostly strategic topics. So we organized such a session and we invited around 30 people, stakeholders we knew, stakeholders we believed could play a role, not only in the structure itself, but also people who we thought were able to kind of provide us with the tailwind we thought was necessary to be successful. And this was in May 2018, and I gave a presentation there, and exactly what we hoped for happened there, in the sense that people liked the idea. And not only that, there were a few people that actively offered us their help. And among those people were the director of an SME intermediary organization, deputy director of the valorization office of the university, a field lab manager, and a business developer, independent business developer. So a few weeks later, the 6 of us, we met and we created really what was not more than an informal working group. And we started to work, and several months later, just after the summer of 2018, we managed to launch this matrix table as a pilot in my region. And then in September 2018, we organized a working conference called Smart Up, and we were pretty lucky to have friends of Smart Specialization like Richard Tufts in the picture here, and Christian Stoblens as well, to act as moderators at this conference. And we took the opportunity to invite Matthias to come over and to present, like today, this Östergötland model. And this conference, it helped us a lot in gaining overall support within our region for our matrix table. And as you can see from the picture, it was great fun as well that day. And what we did, we managed to arrange some funding for our table, some seed money. And this seed money was to be linked to the matrix table, and that money helped to give this matrix table a kind of flying start. Although I have to be honest, it also created a kind of downside in the sense that what happened is that afterwards is that several people decided to come to this table, not to have this kind of exchange to share their knowledge, but actually to secure the seed money for their own initiative. And this is one of the issues we have been working on since then. We have been working over the past 2 years constantly, actually, to improve the workings, the effectiveness of this model, of this table, and to remove these kind of wrong incentives we created ourselves. And then I think it was a year later, in August 2019, the 6 of us, our working group, we made an additional trip to Östergötland, to Sweden, and we spent 2 days there, and we talked to a lot of people, and that additional visit helped us a lot in kind of shaping our minds, and as well as strengthening the bond and the link with Matthias and Östergötland, and as well among the 6 of us ourselves. This is a picture of the governance structure of our new RIS3. This is the one for the upcoming period to 21-27, which our RIS3 recently has been published. And this is a 3-level model. I'm not going to explain the whole picture, the entire model, but I'd just like to share with you that our matrix table is included in this model. Actually, it has become the lowest level in our new RIS3 governance structure. So this is my final slide. A few conclusions I would like to share with you. First of all, maybe obvious, if it wasn't for Beyond EDP, we wouldn't have been where we are today with our matrix table. But I also would like to stress that we experienced that finding a good practice and transferring it to your region is not just a matter of copy and paste. It's much more complex than that. And to be successful, you really have to be able to adjust what you found and to mold it towards your own situation, your own region characteristics and your own needs. And it really takes time. So don't expect results to happen too soon. We are still busy. We're still working on improving our table. And so it takes time. And as well, sometimes you need really to have to find the right momentum. Thank you very much.
Luke, that's very, very good. Thank you very much. Excellent. I think what was good about the story of the storytelling and how you've picked up the idea and moved, and how, in fact, the role of the project as well and the contacts you made with Matthias has helped you in developing. And as you said, two things. I think one is the context. You have to adapt to the context. The other thing is continuity. It's a continuous program and change. But we've got one question that came up, another C, is how in this sort of matrix model, how do you get away with the sort of the competition versus cooperation? If you have similar sort of companies, is there not a sort of feeling of competition between some of the partners? How do you
we started with this matrix. We didn't start it in a kind of fixed structure. So it was we started as a table where everyone was invited to come. And over the time we realized, and at the moment we are working towards a more structurized form, in the sense that we feel it's probably better to have a fixed amount of people present at the table, and then as well to be able to invite additional people depending on initiatives they are working on. And it's all about, I think, about trust. Matthias mentioned it as well. So we haven't experienced those kind of issues yet. And so it's, for us, it's really about collaboration. And I think collaboration is kind of maybe a bit in our DNA. We're pretty used to collaborating, and everyone knows each other, so it's not really a big issue.
Good. Well, thanks for that. So it's already building up this trust and confidence in the system as well, on people. But thank you very much, Luke. Thanks very much, Matthias. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much. We have to move on. So thank you. We're now moving to our next speaker, and it's a great pleasure to welcome Nathalie Boulanger. She's the European Policy Director and Director of European Policy and Innovation from DEVUP, which is the Regional Economic Development Agency for Centre Val du Loire. So Nathalie, over to you. I think you've got about 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Richard. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express how happy I am to be here today, surrounded by experts on smart specialization, the consortium partners, but above all by policymakers and practitioners who come from all over Europe to discuss the management of RIS3, RIS4, and how to involve stakeholders in this public policy. And that is precisely the challenge. At a time where we are all in the process of designing our new public innovation policies for the new programming period, the pandemic is changing the economic, health, and social situation by highlighting new challenges. And how can we better understand these challenges and rely on the assets of our territories than by effectively engaging the actors of these territories? This is the principle of action behind the barbaric term entrepreneurial discovery process. I will therefore let you discover in more detail what this process is, the best tips to implement it, and for which expected result through the video we've made. So you can launch a video now.
Achieving a powerful RIS3 through EDP. Innovation policies have reached a high premium value thanks to the Europe 2020 strategy. To foster indigenous development, regions are strongly encouraged to develop regional innovation smart specialisation strategies, RIS3. Implementing effective management and coordination of the relevant players appears to be a challenge for many regional managing authorities. Within RIS3, the entrepreneurial discovery processes, EDP, are key to place-based innovation by bringing together public authorities, knowledge institutes, business and civil society to create new ideas and practices. In many ways, the quality of RIS3 depends on the efficient understanding and implementation of EDP. The Interreg project Beyond EDP, launched in 2016 with 11 partners from 9 European countries, is all about good EDP management practices. The final objective is to provide the most efficient methodologies and practices to policymakers across Europe to enable them to implement effective RIS3 in their own regions. The stakeholders' interaction is used to explore new niches and market potential, as well as scientific and technological opportunities, and to generate information on the value of such new domains, thereby supporting policymakers in their investment and policy decisions. To sustain continuity in EDP, the regional innovation systems must provide favourable conditions. The governance of the EDP should be ensured at the operational scale, macro, meso and micro, at the 3 levels of innovation environments. At the macro level of innovation environments, broad umbrella organisations have been established. Within the regional context, they are responsible for all sectors and stakeholders that are interested in innovation. At the meso level of innovation environments, specific cluster organisations, collaborative structures or thematic working groups in a specific field have developed an ecosystem. At the micro level of innovation environments, hubs, living laboratories and innovation parks have been created, in which entrepreneurial agents are coming together for specific projects. The political logic of EDP involves participants from different backgrounds, which commonly constitute the so-called quadruple helix, Q4 helix, of policymakers, businesses, academia and civil society. It is essential to keep engaging stakeholders throughout the different stages of the policy-making process. For the design phase of RIS3, 2 important actions were carried out: thorough analysis of regional profiles, but also market opportunities and societal challenges, and a participatory process for RIS3 elaboration. For the next steps of the RIS3, the regions need to follow a focus group methodology, in particular, in the development of a shared vision for the regional development among the stakeholders, in the identification of horizontal objectives and thematic priorities, and in the definition of an action plan with a coherent policy mix. The final step of the RIS3 methodology is the establishment of a more permanent participatory governance structure. The implementation phase of RIS3 implies solving questions such as keeping the momentum in stakeholder participation, finding the right policy instruments and policy mixes to transform thematic priorities into real transformative activities, monitoring and evaluating innovation policies. Stakeholder diversity is a challenge. Openness to new entrants is indeed a main weapon to counteract the usual suspects syndrome and avoids having a narrow vision based on the interests of a few players. Visionary leadership and moderation skills are required to deal with this challenge. Empowerment seems to be another important challenge. Quite often, successful stakeholder engagement starts out in smaller circles, getting activities started and creating an atmosphere of trust and cooperation. Over time, the body of stakeholders active in the process gets enlarged. One further challenge is governance. It is important to understand EDP as a place-based concept for one's region by paying respect to the regional framework conditions. The region's infrastructures and human resources must be well connected and coordinated. The governance of the EDP should be based on sound coordination. It means providing feedback on the strategic scale and ensuring a smooth steering of the global ecosystem. Maintaining the momentum among the different stakeholders involved in the RIS3 management is above all a question of mindset. It's necessary to make them aware that each of them can contribute to the region's development. Policymakers can also put more emphasis on the trial and error aspect and can implement solutions to stimulate risk-taking behaviour. They can also foster transparency and effective communication with stakeholders in a constant and fluent manner. They can also focus on the process itself by creating favourable conditions for innovation processes, creating continuity. They can also use flexible combination of top-down and bottom-up approaches while leaving some room for flexibility in the schemes of cooperation. As expected, the outcome from the EDP can benefit regions at different levels. At the decision aid level, the feedback on the RIS3 implementation and on the needs of the entrepreneurs allows the policymakers to better target their innovation priorities, as well as to better implement their innovation strategy by adjusting the policy mix to the entrepreneur's needs and financial stakes. At the operational level, EDP allows regional entrepreneurs to discover new emerging markets, new topics, and encourages them to explore these opportunities. This is showcased by the increasing number of projects and collaborations within the RIS3 priorities. It also encourages the innovation support intermediaries to consider the entrepreneur's needs and observations and to improve the quality of their supports. Finally, EDP provides a fertile environment enabling entrepreneurs to take advantage of these opportunities and to participate actively in the economic and social development of the territory.
So thank you very much. I hope you now understand a bit more about EDP thanks to this introductory video. It will be available and widely disseminated on the Interreg Europe website of the Beyond EDP project, together with the synthesis and the framework document on this subject. Indeed, as Erwin Siveris pointed out during the introduction, Interreg Europe projects are above all projects for sharing experience between European policymakers like Matthias and Luc spoke about, enabling them to develop their own public policy by drawing inspiration from best practices from elsewhere. Nevertheless, in the case of our consortium, we went a little further. Why? Because in 2015, when DevUp brought all the partners together in Brussels to prepare the project, nobody really knew what the entrepreneurial discovery process was. We all intuited that this would be the cornerstone for implementing smart specialization strategies. But at that time, we didn't really know how to go about it. So we decided to work together on this subject, but above all, to share the fruit of our reflection and experience with the other policymakers in Europe. And this is the reason why for my intervention today. Furthermore, we would like to take the opportunity to thank not only the project partners who took part in the working group to identify the challenges and propose solutions, those who led them brilliantly, and finally those who wrote the summaries to make the concept accessible to the policymakers. We would also like to thank the prestigious experts who helped us to clear up the subject and with whom we collaborated a lot. In particular, we would like to greet Dominique Foray and the GRC team. To conclude with this video and the framework document, you get the theoretical basis on the entrepreneurial discovery process. We hope it will be useful for you, especially since it has now become one of the 7 enabling conditions in the governance of RIS3 for obtaining structural funds. The workshops that follow will enable a more operational approach. So don't hesitate to ask your questions and intervene. We will be pleased to exchange with you. Thank you for your attention.
Natalie, thank you very much indeed. The film was obviously a very, very good overview of the EDP process. And I think it will be very, very useful for regions who are not that familiar, a good baseline to start from. And as we said from Luke, everybody needs their own context, so they have to adapt probably to their own context, but it was an excellent overview of EDP, so thank you very much indeed. We're now going to move to our session 3, the parallel session. So in about just after this introduction, there are 3 parallel sessions. You will automatically go into your parallel session after just finish speaking. We're running a little bit behind time. I think we're about 10 minutes behind time, so apologies for that. But so I suggest that we go into the workshop sessions now, and then we finish those workshops at 12:05. So is that okay for all the coordinators for the workshops? So we come out at 12:05 and we'll catch up time for the end part. Thanks very much. So thanks very much for the workshops. We're now going to just do a quick overview of the workshops. We've got 3 moderators who are going to report back, and I think the first one is going to be Matthias. Matthias,
I'm talking to myself here. Sorry about that. My workshop was about the continuous entrepreneurship discovery process, and Bruno Cecucci and Gabriel Bernardczyk had a great presentation about good experience and good practices within their region and practical recommendations. It was very interesting to see its different structure. Bruno was highlighting the structure of the Umbria region, that 97% of the companies are below 10 people hired or so. So they have a structure who it's very hard to get them into the innovation environment or to the university, but he had a very good practice project there within health, where they get a lot of interested companies who were with that project, and they talked to each other, developed, and the project was like an incubator for the companies. That was very interesting. And Gabriel, he had a good practice about the Business Innovation Center, where companies are coming to them, and they have advisory there, and they could get help within that center with questions for that, and meet then you meet the actual companies up front, and you get the needs directly. And we thought that was also a very good example they had. And we were also into difficulties, of course, that Gabriel discussed a lot, was the trust towards the public authorities. You have to build the trust, you have to explain it, and it's hard to get the entrepreneurs to trust them. That's a good point of view, and I think you have to find some solutions for that, and to overcome that problem, because I think you have something there with the Business Innovation Center, Gabriel. I think that was very interesting. And Bruno also mentioned a lot about knowledge circulation. It's you have to have that in the region also, from the public sector, from the university towards the companies. That was also interesting. And the tips was that you have to have a, when you meet the companies, Bruno said that you have to have a direct vision, and I think that was very good, because the companies needs to see what the gain, why they are coming there, and why they should meet these authorities, universities. So, and that will increase the EDP, of course. And yeah, of course, close contact with the university and research departments. And also Bruno mentioned one thing that was very interesting, has not been mentioned, I think, so far, is the financial instruments. That's also very important to addressed to the companies, because a lot of companies, the first thing they need for growth is competence and financing. So I think that's a great tool to work with the EDP process, to explain to them what kind of instruments you have for them. That's an offer, I think. So I think I summarized. If anybody has something to complain or add, so please do so.
Thanks very much. That was very clear for me, but obviously people can add things on the chat if they wish.
Thank you.
But thank you very much. We now move to our second moderator, was Carsten from the university section.
Yeah, we were workshop number 2, and we heard two beautiful and engaging presentations. One was from Nelly. She was telling us a little practice example about, the creation of a smart drug, and she was focusing and strengthening the point that it's very important, if you bring stakeholders together, that you have to have higher institution of education in it, because they always bring something special to the table. And if you have done, if you found this very beautiful mixture, and they found it, then you should have regular meetings and see how they develop a relation with each other. And actually Pilar then added to it that you not only should bring them together and make it regularly, you should really also have a responsible, active body. So this means, that you have to have a structure in which this little dough that you are making by having, the stakeholders together are actually able to really develop and grow. And this could be, and we as the people from Magdeburg were also, strengthen this argument, could be an organization itself, if it's not there yet, could be a think tank or something, that could be regional, could be could be national, but it should be there an organization. And actually Pilar made very beautiful experience with that, because they founded something like this already in 2008, and they could really see, a growing discovery process with the numbers, etc. And I think we can learn a lot from Pilar in this. And if you're interested, contact her as well. But she really said it's a success story. And what she then also stressed in the end was they were starting early, to build up the structure, but now they're focusing, and also, of course, some of our regions have the same problem. They're focusing on the rural areas where you have an aging society, etc. And so you're taking the discovery process and take it also now to the rural areas. And I think with all the technical advances we have nowadays with communication, and also as we see now here with the Zoom conference, etc., perhaps that's also very possible to have this kind of beautiful stakeholder meetings there. There was some beautiful questions from the audience, and one was then going into the sense that how do you know who is the right researcher for the discovery process? And we found out then in discussion, and also Pilar stressed this, in some ways to find the right person also in the higher education, it's also a discovery process. So in some ways it seems there's always a discovery process, but to find the right person as a professor or professors who wants to be involved in developing the region, to find out, a way to perhaps support with her ideas that make perhaps not sense in her field, but makes perhaps a company making a lot of money with it, and then supporting the structures come together, so because we have two logics, and of course we in Germany with our philosophers, we have this famous Niklas Luhmann who is always going for the systems, and if you have two systems trying to communicate with each other, sometimes they don't understand, but if you have something like a structure around it and they help to make the dough work, because they don't see it yet, but together they see it, there's something special coming out of it. And that was some of the main focuses we had. Because it will be the last thing I will say probably today, I want to thank everyone who was involved, all the partners in the regions, of course, also the people like Martina Hagen and Kai Langnickel and all the German stuff, but of course all the other regions. Thank you that we had this beautiful project together, and hopefully we all see each other again in other projects. That would be a beautiful thing if perhaps, the smart specialization process goes into the future with a more building up structures in different regions. That will be our beautiful aim.
Carsten, thank you very much for a very good overview. One of the points you just made, I think, was who is the right person in the university to engage. There's a very good lot of work by a Professor John Goddard, who's worked on this idea of a boundary spanner, the person who can work between the university and the business, who has the same discourse, you know, that came up in your session, I think. Thank you very much for that. We now move on to our final overview. It says Christian Saublance, I think.
So thank you, Richard. We discussed the role of intermediary organization into the S3 process, and that was illustrated by the experience in Extremadura with Carmen Sanchez, and in Central Romania with Ioan Levici. They both stress the importance to build thematic group, and at the surprise of our friends from Centru, there was even local innovation community who was created. And they think that that was a good idea because they have been able to have more trust between the people than at a larger. Both show how projects, pipelines were activated at niche level in those community. And in Extremadura, one of the outcomes of the EDP was to transform the EDP into policy action and instruments to finance a new sort of project. As we saw that those initiatives were built, the discussion was, what's the difference with a cluster, and why at local level those policy action community interest group were created. And both Jan and Carmen mentioned the informal aspect and the trust between people who want to share their ideas. Having reviewed that a lot of initiatives are booming at a local level, especially in large area like Extremadura, came the discussion about how to translate that into the mainstream. And Natalie mentioned the importance to have horizontal measure in your S3 so that you can find crossroad between the main element of the strategy and the local. So the role of intermediary are really to manage the interface between the different stakeholders, the people, and to align those expectations with the policy and the direction of the S3. And finally, we had a question from Central region as well, to ask how to put your local S3 or your regional S3 into the only national S3. And our friends from Austria mentioned that this is a learning process to influence every day the national setting of the priority. And so that's important for intermediary organization. So that was hopefully a good summary of what we discussed, what we touched upon. And thank you and good luck for everybody for the next generation of S4.
Yeah, Christian, thanks very much. It sounded very good to me. So very clear. One of the questions you raised, the role of clusters, that might come up perhaps later in this EDP. That's something we could talk about. But now we need to move to our final session. We're going into a concluding session. I now have to welcome Nathalie Boulanger back, and also it's a great pleasure to welcome, I think, Esteban Pelayo from Director of URADA, who should be there. We hope.
Yeah, maybe I let the floor to Esteban now, because he was particularly involved in our consortium. So, oh, sorry, I let you to conclude.
Thank you very much, Natalie. It's for us a pleasure to be here and to contribute to the organization of this conference. What my first thought, and I'm going to say only two because I know that Richard likes to finish on time. He's an excellent moderator always. My first thought is that the S3 or the S4 is still alive. In 2017, we prepared a position paper of our association aligned with the consultation of the European Commission. And in the first paragraph, we said in that moment, we, the regional economic practitioners, believe that this smart specialization is an important tool for us. There is a consensus about that is a new tool that will have impact in our territories and deserve life, not to change from policies to policies in order to find the best one. And we are very happy to see that we have a programming period when it was the cornerstone of the operational program and will be again even more in this programming period. So for us is really relevant. And if you want to take one idea from the conference today, is that it's good to have these local communities where people mix on the priorities of the smart specialization. You saw that with the matrix that Östergötland developed and SNN as well adapted to the local circumstances. Nathalie Boulanger in Centre-Val de Loire, they had the pilot and the co-pilot. Carmen Sanchez has told us as well about that, or even Joan or told us about a private entity doing that. So this is the main idea. So not to write something in the stone and wait 7 years to modify, but accordingly with the enabling condition that we all agree is not something that is compulsory, but as well the regional practitioner think that is the necessary. We should try to foster collaboration in the priorities and create local communities. This is the thing, to cooperate. And speaking about communities, and we said as well in the position paper, and it's still there, and we see that there is not only the community of your territory to have the appropriate granularity on the priorities, but as well there is a community beyond your territory because we speak the same language, as you could see today. There are many means of cooperation. The first one, and I think it's the role of a European association to show you the way. The first one and most important one is the platform of smart specialization. If you are not in those platforms, please join them, because it's the people working in smart specialization in priorities and trying to bring something tangible, something impactful to your territory. We will have the Interregional Innovation Investment Initiatives that will open the calls probably in spring next year, the I3. This is something that we thought that has to be done, and finally we got that after years of discussion. There is in the third pillar of Horizon Europe, there is as well a program for connecting innovation ecosystem that will be interesting. And luckily, we will have as well Interreg Europe, because this is a complex governance. So it's not easy implementing the smart specialization, and we know that should be done. And for that, the learning that we have among us is a very good example. And to summarize, I think that Matrix is a very good example about common learning and how to apply things together. And as well, the framework document that Nathalie told you, it was very well written by my colleagues and could guide you about in a very good way. No, it's not a boring document, believe me, how to implement an effective entrepreneurial discovery process in your territory. I would like to thank you, my colleagues, despite the technicalities. It's because we have too many participants that we didn't expect, so we had to change the platform last week. And as well, I would like to thank you specifically two persons that has been very important for Eurada and for me in the last year, and I would like to thank you very much. First, Christian Soblan, the former director of Eurada and the first chairman of the Mirror Group on the smart specialization. And then when he took over was Richard Taff, former director of ERIN and as well chairman of the Smart Specialization Working Group. Thank you to both of you, how you are contributing to to the internationalization of the good practice of the regional practitioner. We are very honored to have you involved today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just to conclude, I would like to share the thanks from Esteban to Christian and Richard, but also to all the moderators of the workshop and to the panelists. I would like also to thank the participants and the attendee of the final conference. And from our part in DevUp, we are very proud to have coordinated this Interreg Europe project, the result of which are presented today. And we saw a very beautiful dynamic affection and trust between the different partners. So thank you to them, because one of the main output of this conference is directly coming from their experience, from their reflections. So thank you so much to have exchanged that with us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalie. I'd just like to finish, I suppose, just to remind people that the slides and the recording will be available on the URADA and the Beyond EDP website. I'd like to thank myself, thanks Esteban for the very kind words, and from Natalie as well. I think Christian was the first of the Mirror Group and I was the last chair of the Mirror Group. So that was a nice connection before that. So thanks very much. From my own side, I think the project that looks a very, very good project, lots of learning, lots of things sharing. And this looks like a very good Interreg project where we can really share experience and good ideas across regions, across Europe. And that's what it's all about. And I suppose the next challenge is S3 is to move to S4 and EDP and the S4. So that will be your next project, hopefully. So thank you very much from my side. And unless there are any other comments, let's say goodbye and thanks very much and safe. Normally we say safe journey home, but safe journey to your kitchen, probably. Yeah,
maybe we could switch on all our video so we can take a picture if it is possible, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Very much for everyone. It was very nice to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care.